Sometimes in life, people will try to block your growth. They'll put obstacles in your way, hoping to slow you down or stop your progress. They think that by doing this, they've won. But they forget something important. People who are meant to rise don't fall that easily. True strength doesn't trip over what's meant to stop it. Instead, it uses the blocks to build something stronger. When life tries to crush someone who is truly powerful inside, that pressure only helps them grow. That's how the universe works. It has a strange sense of justice. The very things people use to hurt you often become the reason you succeed. Every attempt to stop you just pushes you further toward your purpose. The universe doesn't always make noise when it balances things out. It doesn't always respond with big reactions. Sometimes it works in silence, but with exact timing. The people who secretly wanted to see you fail will be the same ones shocked when they witness your success. They thought they had the power to break you, but they only helped shape you into something stronger. Life has a way of paying people back, not with loud revenge, but with quiet consequences. And those consequences always come. The energy people send out, especially the bad kind, comes back to them. It may take time, but it never misses its target. And you? You were never meant to stay broken. The hard times didn't destroy you. They made you tougher, wiser, and more unshakable. Just like diamonds are formed under extreme pressure, your strength came from betrayal, from loss, and from people who let you down. You didn't crumble, you transformed. The people who laughed at you, who doubted you, who tried to dim your light, they were unknowingly giving you fuel. They pushed you without realizing they were helping you grow. Now, they watch you, not because they admire you, but because they can't ignore you. They might not say it, but they're paying attention to everything you do. Your success bothers them, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing fine without them. Your peace disrupts their chaos. The fact that you no longer react, no longer beg, no longer chase, that's what scares them. You've become the glitch in their system. You're the reminder that they no longer have control over you. See, people like to control others by keeping them small. As long as you were easy to influence, they were happy. But the moment you stood up for yourself, everything changed. The truth is, they never respected you. They just liked that you made their life easier. You did everything to please them, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace. But it wasn't peace. It was just silence bought with your energy. You shrank yourself to make room for others. You kept your light dim so it wouldn't hurt their eyes. But what did you get in return? Emptiness, exhaustion, no appreciation, no real love. You finally stopped trying to explain yourself to people who never wanted to understand you. You now realize that some people were never confused, they just didn't want to lose control. They acted like they didn't get you, but really, your growth scared them. You were growing too big for the box they built for you. And now that you've broken out of it, they're uncomfortable. But that's not your problem. You've stopped making yourself small for the sake of others. You no longer walk on eggshells. You no longer replay every conversation in your head, wondering if you said something wrong. You're done giving your power away just to avoid conflict. Now, your silence is your power. You don't argue with people who have already made up their minds. You don't chase after people who walked away. You don't beg for love, attention, or understanding, because those who truly see you will never need explanations. And those who don't, they're not your audience. You've learned that silence speaks louder than words. When you stop talking, people finally start listening. When you disappear, they feel your absence. They only respect your boundaries when you stop giving them endless chances. Your energy is no longer on sale. You don't give it to everyone. It's valuable, and you've learned to protect it. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people only stick around because they benefit from your kindness. But now that you've started choosing yourself, they call you selfish. That's okay. Let them, because they never loved you. They loved what you did for them. The moment you stopped serving their needs, they changed. But that's how you know it was never about love. It was about control. You finally started choosing yourself. And that's the most powerful thing you've ever done. You've stopped betraying yourself just to make other people comfortable. You've stopped giving up your peace for relationships that were never equal. And now you feel lighter, freer, stronger. People will call it a glow up, but really, it's just you returning to who you were always meant to be. You don't explain your boundaries. You don't justify your healing. If someone doesn't understand, that's not your job to fix. There was a time when you stayed quiet just to avoid problems. You held back your thoughts, your opinions, your truth, because you didn't want to upset anyone. You thought silence was a form of safety. But now, your silence is not fear, it's power. You no longer use silence to avoid conflict. You use it to protect your energy. You don't waste your breath on people who twist your words. You don't try to prove your worth to those who only see what they want to see. Your silence is now your boundary, and people feel it. They're used to the old version of you, the one who explained everything, who apologized for being too much, who said yes when they meant no. That version no longer exists. Now, you're unpredictable, and that scares people who once had control over you. They don't know how to handle this new you, the quiet, calm, confident you. You've realized that not everyone deserves your voice, your time, or your explanations. Sometimes, the best way to protect yourself is to say nothing and walk away. And now, you see love differently. You've learned to recognize when people are using kindness to control you. Not all love is real love. Some people act nice just to keep you close, but only as long as you serve their needs. The moment you step out of that role, they show their true face. They get angry, cold, distant. But now, you see through that. You understand that real love respects your boundaries. Real love doesn't punish you for choosing yourself. The people who got mad when you said no were never on your side. They were just used to you. Yes, you used to be the person who made everything easy for others. You didn't complain. You didn't ask for much. You were the helper, the fixer, the listener. And people loved that about you until you needed something in return. That's when they disappeared. But you've stopped chasing that kind of love. You no longer want to be loved for what you can offer. You want to be loved for who you are, even when you're not convenient. This shift you're feeling, it's not your imagination. It's your rise. You're stepping into your power. You're letting go of guilt, shame, and fear. You're no longer performing for love. You're no longer proving your worth. You've realized that being good doesn't mean being used. That peace doesn't come from keeping everyone else happy. It comes from finally being honest with yourself. This is your rebirth. Your silence is no longer weakness. It's wisdom. Your boundaries are no longer walls. They're gates to protect your peace. You don't explain your glow. You don't defend your growth. You don't water yourself down for people who aren't ready for your life. And the people who once called you too emotional, too much, too sensitive, they're going to be shocked at how powerful you become. Because you no longer live to be understood. You live to be free. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them miss the old version of you. Because you've outgrown that version. And there's no going back. You're not becoming someone new. You're finally becoming who you were always meant to be. There comes a time when you stop doing everything people expect of you, and suddenly, they don't know what to do with you anymore. They become confused, even upset. Why? Because the version of you they liked was the one that always said yes, the one who never pushed back, the one who made things easy for them. They were comfortable when you kept quiet, when you gave in, when you made yourself small so they could feel big. But now, you've grown, you've changed, and your growth makes them uncomfortable because it reminds them they were benefiting from your silence. When they say things like, "You've changed," or "You're selfish," what they really mean is, you're no longer easy to control. They didn't love you for who you truly were. They loved how you made their lives easier. They liked the version of you that didn't have needs of your own, the one who always showed up, always gave, and never asked for anything back. But now that you're starting to choose yourself, to set boundaries, to say no when it matters, now they have a problem. But that's not your problem anymore. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them talk. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink or to silence yourself. Real love doesn't want you to break yourself just to keep someone else whole. You were never put here to be someone else's emotional support system at the cost of your own peace. If someone can't respect your boundaries or accept your growth, they were never really for you. They only wanted to keep you where you were, small, quiet, and easy to manage. The truth is, you've started seeing things more clearly. You've realized that your silence, your boundaries, your self-respect, those are powerful. More powerful than any praise or approval they gave you when you were doing what they wanted. Now that you've stopped trying to please everyone, you're finally choosing yourself. And that changes everything. There was a time in your life when being liked felt like the most important thing. You tried to be everything to everyone. You wanted to be seen as the good one, the dependable one, the kind one. So you smiled when you were hurting. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You gave and gave, even when it left you empty. You thought that's what good people do. But the truth is, while you were trying so hard to be liked, you forgot to take care of yourself. People praised your kindness. They said they could always count on you. But over time, you realized that their praise had a price. They didn't love you for who you were. They loved what you gave. Your time, your energy, your help. They didn't care how it affected you, as long as you kept showing up. They used your fear of being disliked, your guilt, your need to be needed. And as long as you kept saying yes, everything was fine. But once you started saying no, once you started standing up for yourself and setting limits, everything changed. They didn't know how to handle the new you. The one who didn't jump every time they called. The one who had the courage to walk away when something didn't feel right. And suddenly, the people who once said they loved you began to disappear. The conversation stopped. The energy shifted. And it hurt, but it also revealed the truth. They weren't really your people. They just liked having access to your kindness, your effort, your care. When you stopped giving freely, they saw it as a threat. Your boundaries exposed the fact that they were taking advantage of you. And when they couldn't use you anymore, they called you names. Difficult, cold, selfish. But deep down, you know better now. You're not selfish. You're just no longer available for manipulation. If people start to leave because you're finally putting yourself first, let them go. You're not losing real friends. You're losing people who only like the version of you that existed for their comfort. The ones who love you for who you truly are will never be threatened by your growth. They'll cheer you on. So let people think what they want. Let them call you what they will. Because if being honest, strong, and self-loving makes you unlikable, then so be it. You didn't come here to please everyone. You came here to live your truth. Something else happens when you stop carrying everyone else's weight. For a long time, you believed your relationships were built on mutual care and love. You thought your friendships, family ties, and romantic connections were strong because you all cared equally. But over time, you started to notice that you were the one always reaching out, always fixing, always apologizing. You were the one smoothing things over, checking in, and holding everything together. And it wasn't because they asked you to, at least not out loud, but they expected it. They relied on your sense of duty, your loyalty, your fear of letting people down. You didn't want things to fall apart, so you did everything in your power to keep them together, even when it hurt you. But then something inside you changed. Maybe you were exhausted. Maybe you just had enough. So you stepped back. You stopped fixing what you didn't break. You stopped apologizing just to keep the peace. You stopped showing up for people who never showed up for you. And guess what? Everything started falling apart. They got angry. They blamed you. They said you ruined things. But really, they were just mad that they now had to carry the weight you were carrying all along. And that's when you finally saw the truth. Those relationships weren't real. They only worked because you were doing all the work. Now that you've stopped, you're seeing everything more clearly. You're not carrying burdens that don't belong to you anymore. And instead of feeling guilty, you feel lighter, freer, because you understand now. If something can't survive without you constantly fixing it, it was never meant to last. You don't owe anyone your energy, your time, or your peace, especially not people who wouldn't do the same for you. You've done your part, more than your part. And now, it's their turn to grow up and take responsibility for their own lives. You don't have to hold everything together anymore. You're allowed to step away. You're allowed to choose peace. And as you do, something even more powerful begins to happen. You start to feel different, like you're becoming someone new, someone stronger. You walk into a room and you don't even have to say anything. People feel the shift in you. Your energy speaks before you do. You're no longer asking for approval. You're no longer waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. For a long time, you tried to blend in. You stayed quiet to keep others comfortable. You made yourself small so others could feel big. But that version of you is gone. You're not shrinking anymore. You're not hiding. You're standing tall in who you are, even if others don't understand it, even if it makes people uncomfortable. This isn't arrogance. This is self-respect. This is knowing your worth. And yes, it might feel unfamiliar at first because you've spent so long trying to survive, trying to be what others wanted. But now you're becoming who you were always meant to be. Some people won't like this version of you. They'll say you're different. They'll act like they don't know you anymore. But the truth is, they never knew the real you. They only knew the version of you that made life easier for them. And now that you're showing up fully, now that you're standing in your power, they don't know what to do. That's okay. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them leave. Because the ones who are meant to be in your life, they'll stay. They'll celebrate your growth. They'll meet you where you are, not where you used to be. You don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't need to keep fighting for space at tables that weren't built for you. Build your own table. Sit in your own truth. Let your energy fill the room. You're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to live fully, to love deeply, and to rise completely into who you are. And the best part? You're just getting started. For a long time, you believed that being nice was a good thing. You thought it meant you were kind, respectful, and caring. You tried to make people happy. You avoided arguments, forgave easily, and always gave others the benefit of the doubt. You didn't speak up when you were uncomfortable. You kept your opinions quiet, hid your true feelings, and made your needs seem small. You thought if you were nice enough, people would like you, and you'd be seen as a good person. But over time, you started to feel tired. You realized that being nice all the time wasn't helping you, it was hurting you. You weren't being true to yourself. You were making yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. You now understand that this niceness wasn't really kindness. It was something you were taught, maybe even as a child. You were trained to be quiet, to give in, to please others. You were told that saying yes made you lovable, but saying no made you difficult. You learned that if you stood up for yourself, people might think you were mean or selfish. So you kept quiet. You smiled when you were hurting. You gave and gave, even when it left you feeling empty. You were afraid that if you stopped, people would leave you or stop caring about you. But one day, something changed. You started to see the truth. That niceness people praised wasn't about kindness, it was about control. People liked you better when you didn't challenge them. They felt comfortable when you kept quiet. They took advantage of your silence. They used your fear of rejection to get what they wanted. And you let them because you thought that's what love and friendship looked like. But now you know better. You've realized that true kindness comes from strength, not fear. It's about choosing who deserves your time, your energy, and your heart. It's not about trying to please everyone. You don't need to be nice to everyone anymore. You've learned to say no without guilt. You've stopped giving to people who don't give back. You know that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. You don't let guilt or fear control your actions. Instead, you choose kindness where it's earned, not where it's expected. Letting go of being nice has given you freedom. You don't care as much if people are uncomfortable with your truth. You don't need everyone to like you. You've stopped betraying yourself just to keep others happy. And that's when the real change began. You finally found your voice again. There was also a time when you tried hard to fit into the mold others created for you. You did what they expected. You were careful, predictable, and agreeable. You thought that if you acted the way others wanted, they would accept you. But what you were really doing was giving up your power. You were trying to be accepted by people who only loved the version of you they could control. Now, that version of you is gone. You've stopped asking for permission to be yourself. You don't explain every decision. You don't apologize for having opinions. You walk with confidence. And without even trying, you've become someone people find hard to handle. But not because you're mean or harsh. It's because you no longer depend on their approval. You don't play small to make others feel comfortable. People who once controlled your actions now don't know how to respond to your strength. Your independence makes them nervous. Your confidence makes them uneasy. And when they say you've changed, they're right. You have. But you didn't become cruel. You just stopped pretending. You stopped letting fear guide your life. You started living honestly, boldly, and without apology. And here's something else you've learned. Not all love is real love. You once believed that love was about giving endlessly, being patient, and putting others first. You thought that if you were kind enough, forgiving enough, and helpful enough, people would love you back. But then you noticed something. When you started to set boundaries, when you said no, when you spoke up for yourself, the love changed. It became colder, conditional. Their warmth faded when you stopped being easy to use. That's because what they called love wasn't love. It was manipulation. They didn't love you. They loved your silence, your sacrifice, your willingness to give without asking for anything in return. Real love doesn't demand that you give up your values or your peace. Real love respects your boundaries. Real love supports your growth. And now you demand that respect. You no longer accept love that feels like control. As you started choosing yourself, some people began to disappear. But that's not your fault. They couldn't control you anymore, and that made them uncomfortable. They called you selfish, said you changed, tried to guilt you into being the old version of yourself. But deep down, you know what's really happening. They're upset because they can no longer use your kindness for their own benefit. They can't count on you to stay small anymore. You've raised your standards, and not everyone can reach them. You now understand that attachment isn't the same as love. Real love doesn't hurt. It doesn't demand. It doesn't punish. It doesn't come with conditions. Now that you've seen what real love looks like, you'll never go back to the old kind. You'll never accept less than you deserve again. You've also started to notice something else: who claps when you win. When your dreams were small, people around you smiled. They offered support, gave you advice, and acted like they cared. But once you started growing, once your confidence grew and your success showed, they became quiet. Their praise faded. Their support felt forced. They didn't celebrate you the same way anymore. And you realized why. They were only comfortable when you were unsure of yourself. They liked being the person you looked up to, the one who had the answers. They never expected you to rise above them. They didn't want to see you outgrow them. That made them feel insecure, and instead of supporting your success, they pulled away. It's a hard truth to face. But now, you're paying attention to who stays silent when you shine. You're learning who's truly happy for you and who only pretended to be. You've stopped chasing their approval, and you no longer feel guilty for growing. Lastly, be careful of the people who say they miss the old you. What they really miss is the version of you they could take advantage of. You were always there for them, always giving, always saying yes. You bent over backward, even when it hurt. You forgave when they didn't deserve it. You tolerated behavior that made you feel small. They didn't love the real you. They loved how easy you made life for them. Now that you've changed, they don't know how to act. You're not cold, you're just clear. You're not mean, you're just honest. You've stopped accepting excuses. You've stopped letting guilt control your choices. And that's what bothers them. When people say you've changed, take it as a compliment. You've grown. You've stepped into your power. You've stopped carrying the weight of everyone else's needs. You've chosen yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. The people who truly care about you will never ask you to stay small just to keep them comfortable. They will never ask you to dim your light so they can shine brighter. The ones who matter will grow with you, not try to hold you back. And so, you keep going. Keep choosing your truth. Keep standing strong. Let those who can't handle your growth fall away. That's not loss, it's transformation. It's making room for the people who see your light and honor it. You've broken free from old patterns, stepped into your power, and claimed your life. You are no longer here to be everyone's comfort zone. You are here to be yourself, fully, freely, and fearlessly.